Today is Defence Sunday, the Sunday nearest to Remembrance Day, where we pause and reflect and remember the sacrifice through all conflicts that Australian and Commonwealth defence personnel have made. I'm standing in front of a painting of a photo that was taken by Bombardier Harold Thomas, a US Air Force bombardier. He had a good friend, Lieutenant Judy Fleming, who was in the serviceman's hut in Minneapolis in Minnesota. And when he sent it to her, also in that office was a Marine Corps sergeant who was a very good painter, and so he decided to paint this painting. When the painting was completed, it hung in the divisional headquarters there in Minneapolis throughout the course of World War II. And it stuck as a reminder there of the sacrifice and the service that the Salvation Army was making. It came to be in Australia when Judy, who had now married, and her husband, Brigadier James Watt, and her brought the painting and presented it at THQ as a way of remembering Harold Thomas, because for many years this painting had just sat in storage. And because it depicted the Australian Salvation Army's work during World War II, they thought what better place than for it to be at THQ in Sydney at the time. It reminds us that memorials are important. Memorials are important because there's lots of things that they do for us as human beings. In Joshua chapter 4, when the children of God were crossing through the Jordan, God spoke with Joshua and said to choose 12 men to take stones from the centre of the river and make a memorial when they had crossed. The reason was, it was there to stir memories. It was there so that when in future days they passed by, that they would be able to remember what God had done for them. We have lots of memorials. We have plaques, we have tombstones, we even have wedding bands that remind us of different things. So what's God asking you to remember today? Maybe it's those things that He's been doing in your life, that because we get busy, because we get in a hurry, because we do things that are challenging, they just slip from our memories. The first thing the reason that we build memorials is to stir our memories. Now standing in front of pictures of previous Chief Commissioners of the Red Shield Defence Services, the people that have held the role that I currently hold. They remind me each and every day when I see them that we share a story of a faith, that a faithful service to those men and women of the Australian Defence Services. And again, that's probably the reason why Joshua was asked to place the memorial. What's the most common question that we as human beings, and especially our children, have? It's the question of why. And so as those stones were there at Gilgal, and as the families passed through there, I'm sure their children would ask their parents, why are these stones standing? And it presented them an opportunity to share their faith. And that's the second reason that we have memorials. And we have things like Remembrance Day, because it gives us opportunity to share our faith, to remember what God has done for us, but to share those stories in the hope that we encourage others. You see, in 1 Peter chapter 2, Peter, talking to the early church, says, we are living stones. Not those inanimate stones that were there in Joshua chapter 4, but we are living stones that share the story of what God is doing in our lives today. Maybe the challenge of Remembrance Day and Defence Sunday is for you to make opportunities to share your story of faith, to remember what God has done and to step out and share those stories with your friends, with your families, with those that you meet in the everyday. On the first Remembrance Day, King George called the Commonwealth to remember not only those who had paid the ultimate price, but also the futility of war and conflict. Remembrance Day was also to remind us to seek other possible outcomes before sending our nation's young people into harm's way. It's the reason that the Australian War Memorial can be seen from Parliament House, so that those parliamentarians know the implications of their decisions. The stones set up on that day weren't just for remembering. There was another set of stones. 12 stones were set up in the middle of the Jordan River. They were there to remind them to forget the failures of their past. Before the priests came out of the middle of the dry Jordan riverbed, Joshua went back in and set up 12 stones in the middle of the river. When the priests stood on the other side of the shore, the river began to flow and covered those stones that Joshua had just set up. The name Gilgal means the reproach has been rolled away. After 40 years, their failure, defeat and wandering was all behind them, buried like the stones in the Jordan River. These 12 stones in the centre of the Jordan River represent a shake-up of our past, time for a new beginning. Maybe you've built a monument of failure, shame and regrets. You need to put them in the Jordan River this morning. You need to let the healing waters of God's love and grace cover them and move on and shake up your past. Remembrance Day is about stirring our memories, sharing our faith and shaking up our past. So on this Defence Sunday, we have an opportunity to pause and remember, to thank God for what he has done, how he has looked after us, to craft a story that we share with those around us and use it as an opportunity to move forward, leaving our failings, shame and regrets behind. And pause and reflect. We will remember them, lest we forget. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.